the cavalier behavior of Canada and Justin Trudeau. India has responded firmly to Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's recent admission that his government, in fact, had no hard proof, and it accused India of involvement in the killing of terrorist Hardeep Singh Nijjar on Canadian soil. This as the US State Department has confirmed that CC1, the Indian government official allegedly involved in a plot to kill another pro-Khalistani leader in the US, is no longer in government service. Now, the United States also expressed satisfaction with the cooperation provided by the Indian Inquiry Committee. An Indian committee set up to examine the US case visited Washington for talks on Tuesday.
Sure. So we, the meeting that occurred yesterday, we being the U.S. government broadly, updated members of the Committee of Inquiry about the investigation that the United States has been conducting. We've received an update from them on the investigation that they have been conducting. It was a productive meeting, and I will leave it at that.
Did they also inform you about some of the actions they might have taken?
They did inform us that the individual who was named in the Justice Department indictment is no longer an employee of the Indian government.
The visit came just as the row between India and Canada was escalating publicly. Meanwhile, Canadian Prime Minister admitted that his government had not provided India with hard evidence, but just intelligence regarding the killing of Nijjar on Canadian soil. Now, India's Ministry of External Affairs said that Trudeau's testimony before a public inquiry only confirmed what New Delhi has been saying from the start, that Canada has provided no evidence to support the serious allegations that it has chosen to level against India and Indian diplomats. The ministry further added that the responsibility for the damage that this cavalier behavior has caused to India-Canada relations lies with Prime Minister Trudeau alone. Trudeau appeared before the inquiry that is looking at the ability of institutions to detect and fend off the attempts of hostile states to meddle in Canadian affairs. Trudeau also told the inquiry that Canada asked the government of China to remove Zhao Wei, a Chinese diplomat accused of targeting Conservative MP Michael Chong, before deciding to declare Zhao persona non grata and kicking him out of the country. Now, Zhao reportedly played a role in attempts to gather information on Chong's family in Hong Kong in 2021. Following the MP's condemnation of Beijing's conduct, Trudeau said there was an exchange of messages with Chinese officials before Zhao was ejected. Trudeau's latest testimony comes days after Canada ordered 6 Indian diplomats as persons of interest in the ongoing investigation of the killing of terrorist Hardeep Singh Nijjar. In a retaliatory move, India decided to expel 6 Canadian diplomats and recalled its top diplomats from Canada. All right, for more on this, we are being joined by Captain Alok Bansal from New Delhi. He's Executive Director for the National Maritime Foundation and has worked with the Institute of Defence Studies and Analysis and Center for Land Warfare Studies, that is CLAWS. Captain Bansal, thank you so much for joining me again. Again, now it pretty much plays into exactly what India has been saying all along. Where is the proof? And now you have the Canadian Prime Minister saying it on record in his deposition.
See, that very clearly shows that Canadian actions were premature, premeditated, and without any basis on law. In fact, basing themselves on intelligence inputs, which can always be flawed, accusing another sovereign country of this sort of an crime is, I think, to my mind, is a gross violation. And as I have been saying earlier also, the whole actions of the Canadian government actually stem from their own internal political situation. It has no basis either on facts, evidence, or international law.
Captain Bansal, also in the fray at this point. Now, of course, India has been saying this all along. They've been asking, and Canadian High Commissioner, before he was asked to leave or before he was expelled, he also said to the Indian media right outside the Ministry of External Affairs that we've provided irrefutable evidence. And here we have the Prime Minister saying something completely different. So since the time that these claims are being made by the Canadian Prime Minister, it's clear that they don't have evidence to provide. They're just functioning on certain intelligence that they have, which doesn't make up for actual evidence, which India has been asking for since almost a year now. At this point, the ties, they don't seem to be warming anytime close. How bad can it get from here? Give us your thoughts.
See, it looks that the situation is getting worse because Canadian Prime Minister's action is primarily stems from his own domestic constituency. We need to understand that his government is dependent on the support of New Democratic Party led by Mr. Jagmeet Singh, who is a known Khalistan supporter. In fact, even within the fold of Liberal Party, there are numerous MPs and policymakers who are associated with Khalistani terrorist groups, and this was stated not by me or anyone, but by a Liberal Party MP, Ramesh Singha, who was eventually expelled for highlighting this fact that there are terrorist organization affiliated people in the party. So this is a fact, and I think unless, of course, either Trudeau government goes or something like that happens, I don't think so this government is likely to change its stance, because if it has to survive, it has to seek support from Khalistanis, and that eventually will lead to further retaliation from India, because India is not going to sit and willingly take whatever Canadian government accuses it of.
Yes.
So, to my mind, the situation seems to be deteriorating. Already, I think the Canadian Airlines has cancelled its flights to India. So maybe in due course, you might see that even flights getting cancelled.
Yes.
And the only thing that will get affected is people-to-people connect, because you have a large percentage of Canadian citizens of Indian origin, as well as large Indian citizens who are staying in Canada for work or for studies. Life will become difficult for them.
People connects. I think those are going to suffer as much as other diplomatic ties, which are already suffering at this point, perhaps at their lowest point that they have been between the two nations. Sir, also tell me, do you feel Justin Trudeau's allegations against India, which are clearly in the air, as he said it himself, is just a means to divert attention from the allegations of China, which has actually been meddling in Canadian politics and in Canadian internal affairs?
I feel it more than that. I think it is his internal political compulsions. I don't visualize that probably this sort of an accusation will divert attention from what China's meddling into the internal affairs is. But I think it's his compulsion of accommodating Mr. Jagmeet Singh, who has not yet supported a no-confidence motion against him, although he has withdrawn support to his government. But when he's still not supporting the no-confidence motion, and that actually keeps Trudeau in government. So I think it's an existential threat as far as his government is concerned, that he has to kowtow to Mr. Jagmeet Singh and his political party. And Jagmeet Singh, as you know, has a history of having been associated with Khalistani organizations. He had protested when Mr. Kamal Nath, the then Commerce Minister, had visited Canada, protested against him. And he has known linkages with Khalistani organizations. And I think that is the factor which is actually influencing the decisions of the Canadian Prime Minister and his government.
Absolutely. It seems like it's more of a plea to get its own domestic politics in place, trying to garner support from the NDP again, which has already distanced itself from Trudeau at this point. Thank you so much for joining me on the broadcast. That was Captain Alok Bansal joining me from New Delhi.